Welcome to Damon Does the 6 Questions, where the same 6 questions can tell a unique story. I am your host, Damon, father of 2, husband of 1, and leader of this here Damodcast. My guest is the author of 8 novels, and her short stories have appeared in over 40 anthologies of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Her work has appeared in Bram Stoker's Finalist and other fine publications. She is also the editor of Slay, Story of the Vampire Noire. Please welcome Nicole Givens Kurtz.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you
that
for
was an awesome intro.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to hang out with a perfect stranger. Well, at least talking to a perfect stranger for however long this lasts.
No problem.
Okay, first thing out of the gate. Sing Rocky Top. I'm kidding. You went to UT, right?
I'm from Tennessee. I went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I can sing, yeah.
Please don't.
Because it's a total earworm. It'll be in your ear like all night.
My music teacher made us learn Rocky Top when I was a kid. So, like, when I hear it, I'm like, oh my gosh. I didn't even know. I didn't even know that was University of Tennessee's fight song until I was like 17.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
Yep. That's because you weren't raised in the foothills of the Smokies like I was. Everything is orange and white. Football games on Sunday in the fall. If you miss church because the balls are playing early, oh well.
Oh, so football is a religion down there. Got it.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. If your blood doesn't run orange in Knoxville, they'll have some strong words for you. They love their volunteers no matter how well or not so well they're doing.
Do they even care about the basketball teams at all?
They do. Yep.
Okay, just checking. I know football is king in the SEC, so some of them
it is right. But the girls with Pat for a long time were really big. The boys, they were like in a Final 16 last year. So yeah, no, they care. I don't know how well like the guy, the rowing team does, but or tennis, but definitely the big 3 sports in college football they care a lot about. I'm looking at my mouse pad, and it's a big O, Tennessee. After this show, I'll text you the picture of my mouse pad.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is my alma mater, though, so.
That's fair. Actually, one of your coaches, Conzo Martin, it went to my alma mater. We were both at Purdue at the same time.
Aha. Okay.
Now, I know he wasn't a great coach, but that was the only link I had. That's all I got. And my sister went to UT.
That's all right. Now that song's going to be stuck in my head all night. Thank you for that.
You are welcome. Are you ready to answer the 6 questions?
I am.
Question number 1. When did you know you wanted to be a writer?
It was actually like 9th grade, and my English teacher was like, "Hey, Nicole, they're having this district-wide essay contest, and I think you should enter." And I always enjoyed writing, like since I was a kid. My mom was a writer. She's a very big journalist. She chronicles lots of things. So we would just spend time writing and reading books and magazines. I was like, sure, I'll write an essay. And so I did, and I won. And I won out of like every other high school student that submitted in Knoxville. And I got paid for it. And I was like, wait, you can earn money from this? That's kind of when I realized that it didn't have to be a hobby, that it could be a profession. I read books, so I knew there were authors that got paid to write novels, but I didn't actually think that it could apply to me. Most of that is because there weren't a lot of Black authors that I got to see living in Knoxville and growing up other than like Alex Haley is from Knoxville. But that was like chronicling his roots. That didn't appeal to me. I'm reading Stephen King books, right? And so I didn't see a lot of Black women horror writers. So it didn't occur to me that Nicole could be paid to be a writer until that time.
Question number 2. What do you wish you had known when you first started out?
When I first started out writing professionally, I wish I would have known more about the business side of writing. I thought, foolishly so, that you just, like many people think you write your novel, you edit your novel, you submit it to an agent, you get an agent, you get published, and that it's this very linear process. And if if you get stuck in that process, like you can't go forward, like you can't get an agent, you just circle, right? You spin, keep sending out to agents, but there's no other pathway to go forward because that gate is still locked to you. So I wish I would have known when I started out that was not the case and that there are many different avenues for publishing. Now, there's more now than there were when I started out 20 years ago, but there were other options then too, and I didn't pursue them because I didn't know about them. So I wish that I would have known more about, I wish mentoring, I think part of it too is where I lived. I lived in Knoxville, which is not a very diverse city. They'll argue that, but it's predominantly white. And I think the African American population at the time I was growing up was like maybe 10%, maybe less. So it wasn't like I was able to have a mentor or someone to nourish and nurture my desire to be a published author. And even though my bachelor's degree is in writing, it's in rhetoric. It's not in creative writing. It's in rhetorical writing and persuasive writing. So it's rhetoric. And so I think that if I had to do it over again, I would have stretched beyond my city and beyond my university. And I think I would have asked. I didn't ask my professors. I didn't ask for the help that I think that I needed. I didn't know what questions to ask. And so I think if I could take the knowledge I have now and go back and start it over, I would definitely do it differently.
So as an educator, you get to do that now, and you get to guide new young minds towards, their dreams. That's got to be fulfilling, right?
Oh, yeah. I work with secondary kids, and so students. And so a lot of people are like, oh, my gosh, you work with the older kids. How can you? They're just big children. Like, they're just older children, but they're still children. And they still aren't sure about things. They still need guidance and structure. They still need all the things they needed when they were 6 or 8. They're just in bigger bodies. And so I think that working with kids now or working with students, it's actually a lot like, I'm also a mom, but I also like to see kids and say, you know what, you can do this. You can do this. And I think, again, it's easier. Information is easier because I can say, go to these websites, right? Or talk to these people, right? Whereas before, our world was a little less connected. I had to go to the card catalog to find things. So I think that that's a big point too. Like kids, I was just telling someone the other day, I think Penelope and Alicia and I were talking about how important, how different we might be as adults if we had access to the world that Black girls have now, the representation that Black girls have right now. Like, how different would we be as Black women nerds and geeks? How different would it be for us, right? What fields, like we would probably be in different fields. I would probably be in a STEM field or a tech field, or like where would we be if we had, the representation that Black girls now have? And it still isn't perfect, not by a long shot. But, they have like Hidden Figures and they have Shuri and we've always had Storm, but it was always very slim pickings, like what was available in terms of Lieutenant Uhura. There's always that one. And so now there's like a plethora of options and representation. I think it's fantastic in YA publishing and literature. It's not perfect. There's still a long way to go in terms of diversity, but there is more. And I think that's important.
If it makes you feel any better, my oldest will reap the rewards that you ladies have helped lay the foundation for. So if nothing else, thank you for that.
It's always great. Like, it's always great to work with, especially when I work in schools that tend to be Title I schools. And when Black girls come into my room and they see like my anime stuff and they see like my speculative fiction stuff, posters and stuff on the wall, a lot of them feel seen. It's like, whoa, my Black teacher's a nerd like me, right? There's that sense of being seen. They don't have to hide it. They don't have to explain it. They don't have to worry about family members talking about it's weird. Also, fandom itself is now mainstream, so that also helps, right? Thanks to superhero movies and things like that. So fandom in and of itself has gone mainstream, which I think eliminates or kind of decreases some of the stigmas that came with being a Black nerd. I definitely can see okay, this is going to be all right. This is going to be cool when they come into class.
Question number 3. What is your go-to order at your favorite hometown restaurant?
Okay, so my favorite hometown restaurant is this little bitty Italian restaurant right outside of Charlotte. And my favorite go-to is shrimp scampi. It is fantastic there. I have no idea what they do to it, but it is absolutely delicious.
Is there a story behind how you discovered it or anything?
Yes, my husband and I we're big Renaissance Festival people, and we actually had our first date at the Renaissance Festival. And so we had the next year, the second year of our relationship, we thought we would go stay at a hotel close to the Renaissance Fair and, just hang out that weekend there instead of driving back and forth to Charlotte. So we stayed at a hotel, but it was one of these places where we were walking around in this, downtown, and little downtown, and we're like, oh, we need a place we like Italian food. And we were like, we'll try this mom and pop place, right? It's authentic, it's right downtown. And it's kind of it's like a house. It's called a Mamma Mia too. And it's actually a place that my husband had eaten at before with his family when they had come up for the Renaissance Festival. So we went back there, and I was like, this place is like a dump. It is literally a house that's been converted into a restaurant. It was amazing. So every time we're in that part of the city, we go there. And every time our wedding rehearsal dinner was there. Because we got married at the Renaissance Festival. But yeah, that's kind of why. And I order shrimp scampi a lot of places, but that is my favorite restaurant. It is my favorite thing to order.
You got married at a Ren fair?
I did. And so the Carolina Renaissance Festival has wedding packages. So my husband and I had the queen in her court at our reception. We had a harpist, and we had the royal guard stand at attention and blow horns as we came in, as our wedding party progressed to up to the podium to get married. And then we had Renaissance style dancing lessons from the ladies in waiting for guests and for us. We had a toast to our marriage by the queen. Of course, they hung out and took pictures with the guests, and we toasted to mead, and we were driven to the jousting event that was held in our honor via horse-drawn carriage. And we sat with the queen and the king while the joust went on. And that was it. And then the rest of the time, our guests could explore the Renaissance Festival for the remaining 3 hours.
That is dope.
It was fantastic. It was easily it was brilliant. It was cold because it was November, but it was definitely the most fun I've had in my entire life. And our guests had fun too, because they got to do things they don't normally get to do. Not all of my family have been to a Renaissance Festival. And so here we are at a wedding, and they're looking at pirates and people in costume, and there's a royal court. They're doing these dances they've only seen on Shakespeare plays or whatever. So it's very memorable for them too. And then they got to spend the next couple of hours after the wedding just having fun at the Renaissance Festival, something they probably would have never done on their own. And then my friends who were big time ring goers, it's a chance to go back to fair, right? So it was just a lot of fun. It was cold, but it was still a lot of fun.
Question number 4. What are you curious about?
Right now, I'm most curious about my son's future. I want to know, I'm curious about what kind of men they'll become. They're 19, 19, and 16. And I'm just kind of curious about who they'll be when they're 30 and 40. Because of our current situation, it's not even a current situation, our continuing situation with social justice and Black males and Black people in general in this country, I am constantly curious and concerned about their futures and who they'll be. And that weighs on me a lot. Because when they were little, they were with me, but now that they're men, they're kind of out in the world. And that's I'm always curious about becoming what decisions they're making.
Question number 5. Is there anything I should have asked but didn't?
You didn't ask about Slay, the Vampire Anthology that I'm working on.
Miss Nicole Givens Kurtz. I heard that there's this anthology that's coming out that you're involved with called, I believe it's Slay, Stories of the Vampire Noire. And I was wondering, A, is that true? And B, would you tell me and our listeners all about it? And I will beg for a free copy later.
Number 1, yes, you can have that. And 2, I can talk about Slay. So Slay, Stories of the Vampire Noire, is an anthology of 28 stories written by authors that feature Black vampires or Black vampire slayers. And those stories can be from all over the African diaspora. It's a huge volume of stories. It's already 458 pages. But definitely stories where Blackness is centered in regards to vampires. Very few of the stories actually are Stoker-like. I think there's only one and I think it's Penelope's story that actually references the Renfields. It has a direct connection to Dracula, but the rest of them are very different takes on vampires, on vampire hunters, on family, and they run the gambit from being like a YA coming of age discussion story, like coming of age sisterhood story, to a futuristic vampires where it's far in the future and vampires run everything. And it's just a very eclectic group of stories, and I don't believe there's been an anthology quite like this that is just set with all Black protagonists that are vampires or hunters or slayers. And so we're pretty excited about it. It releases October 13th, but you can pre-order it now on Amazon. It will be available in ebook, in paperback, and in hardcover. So we're pretty excited about it. So I'm happy I edited it. That was fun, going through Slush and trying to pick out the best story. But I definitely think that if it does well, we'll definitely do a volume 2, because there are many, many stories that I rejected that I kind of would have liked to have had, but I've run out of space. So, yeah, if you like vampires, even if you don't like vampires, because very few of the stories are gory, a lot of them are about humanity and just being human and how do you work within the confines of this condition. And then some of them are just straight up butt kicking, heroin type of vampire slayer stories. So I definitely think there's stories in there for everyone over the age of 18.
And it sounds amazing. Like every author that I've talked to that is in the anthology has told me about their story. I'm like, I really need to figure out a way to get my paws on this, and I'm going to tell everybody because it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And I'm not saying that because I am the editor, but I really like these stories. Like, I like them a lot. And they're a good core stable of authors. I've been in a few anthologies, and as the owner of Mocha Memoirs, I've put together a bunch of anthologies or overseen a bunch of anthologies. This is a good group of authors. I'm not saying the other ones weren't, but the energy and the dedication to the project, and it's just been fabulous with them. Because some of them come on your show and talked about it.
It's amazing to me how supportive the Black speculative fiction community is. For the last few weeks, I've felt like Wilson, Tim's neighbor in Home Improvement, and I get to peek over the fence and check out all you cool kids playing in your sandbox. I appreciate you all giving me a chance to peek behind the curtain.
Oh, yeah. I've been doing this, like I said, for like 22 years. And so the community itself of Black speculative fiction artists and authors, I have not had anyone who A, has not been willing to share knowledge, B, assist, C, booster signal. Like there's just it's a community of let's help you reach that, right? And it's just been, there's enough pie for everyone approach to things. And it's just been fabulous. Like I said, I've been in the community a long time, and I've not had any instances where I'm like, okay, we can't play with them. Like, no, I'm taking my blocks and going home. No one's ever been like that. I knock on wood, but they've just all been very collaborative and supportive.
Question number 6.
Dun, dun, dun.
You got me.
It's the last one.
If you could create a new holiday, what would it commemorate?
Teachers.
Carry on.
So, like, teachers would get the day off, right? Like any other federal holiday, but they would be celebrated in places. They can go to restaurants and get free meals. They can go to the mall and get discount. Well, if there was a mall, they can get discounts on clothes. There would be parades that celebrate teachers, and education would be something that is celebrated and adorned. And the people who deliver that and make sure it happens would be held up and celebrated and honored instead of being, trashed and downtrodden by, public opinion, the media, whoever. That day would be to celebrate those that educate us. They educate our kids, they educate literally teachers, whether you go to a private school, whether you go to a public school, or whether you are virtually learning, there's an instructor giving you that information. And unless you're homeschooled, even then, some of the homeschool kids still use like virtual platforms to supplement their learning. And there's a teacher there. There's an instructor behind that. And I think that teachers just do not get the accolades, promotion, and celebration that they deserve. And I think that too, if we were to make it a holiday, then they can't get a bonus per se, but they get that day off from work. And that people are like, well, teachers have teacher work days. You don't understand. Teacher work days are for students. Teachers actually have to work those days. They don't get to sit in their room and eat, chew bubble gum and watch movies. They have to work. It's usually for like professional development or training. And so those days are like, oh, they get the summers off. No, they don't. It's like, what? And I didn't realize that until I became a teacher myself, just how that mythos harms teachers. That's not the reality that they're living in. And that's not been the reality that teachers have lived in for the past 40 years. But there's this enduring stereotype that they're off all summer, they don't really do anything in their classrooms. And man, I don't know what kind of teachers y'all been hanging out with, but I taught for 18 years. We don't have a whole lot of those. And those that are like that don't stay. They're gone. Like they get fired, they get removed. Stuff happens to them. If I had my druthers and my magic wand, I would make a day that just celebrates teachers. And they would get all the perks that veterans get on Veterans Day. They would get all the perks that police get. They can go to Chick-fil-A and get a meal for free. They would get all the accolades that they deserve.
I am in firm agreement. Anybody who's been successful at anything, there's always that one teacher.
Inspires them, right? Like that was. It's always a teacher. that inspires them. People are inspired by their parents, don't get me wrong. But for a lot of us, it was a teacher who made all the difference in who we became.
Right.
And it just was. For me, it was a teacher. You know, my mom did the best she could, but she wasn't super educated. She was a teenage mom. And so she knew enough that to go to the school and say, my daughter is 5 or 4, she can already read. Can y'all get some books for her? Like, you know, and actually seek out who she needed. But once she sent me to school all day, I was in the hands of my teachers. And it was up to them to either continue to spark that reading interest or spark that writing interest or to extinguish it. And they chose to do the former, right? If I had my way, teachers would just be paid like pro athletes. They would their schools will fully be funded no matter what neighborhood it's in. They will all have access to updated technology the way that, I would make tech companies give them the most recent whatever. If I had a wand and the Amazon dude's money, I would change the world. I would not sit on it. I would definitely try to change teachers' fate and status in our society.
I wish I had something else to add, but that sums it all up as far as I'm concerned. I agree with everything you just said. So, here we go. So if you didn't catch that... You
can't tell I've been thinking about that, right? You can't tell that's not been on my mind, right? I've been thinking about that for a while.
So where can listeners find you on the internet and buy your books?
So you can find me at mochamemoirspress.com. You can find me in my work at NicoleGivensKurtz.net. Both Mocha and myself are on Twitter, as well as Instagram and Facebook. You can find all of those social media links if you just go to the website and just click on Facebook or click on Instagram or click on Twitter.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks
for having me. That was a great time, and you made me laugh way more than twice.
Thank you, dear listener, for tuning in. And if you enjoyed the show, take another 2 minutes, log on to Apple Podcasts or wherever you downloaded this. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. It would help the show grow. Remember, you can contact me at DemonDoes, all one word, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have a question or suggestion, you can also contact me at DemonDoes, once again, all one word, at gmail.com. Next week's guest is another doozy. I would describe him as a warrior poet, to be honest. He's the author of more than 20 novels and game books, including role-playing games. Join me as I have the pleasure of talking to another favorite of mine, author, screenwriter, and martial artist Balogun Ojetade. So until next time, see it, hear it, speak it, live. Bitches.